Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at uranium energy. It is time for another update, and yeah, we managed to extend higher here as per our expectations, very much into the area of resistance into the last level, and we will discuss more about that and what we can still expect further. But before that, I want to go quickly through the large time frame for any of you who might be new. And here we have been tracking an idea of a series of 1-2 setups that doesn't seem to be necessarily the most likely interpretation to play out on this chart, and that is because within this structure we would have expected a third wave to be unfolding, and we are witnessing at the moment what is most likely to be a diagonal structure within this area. And in such a case, we will need to be prepared for different interpretations. This could be, in the end, something like a 1-2 setup once we actually get this additional move to the upside. It could be a wave C, part of a larger uptrend completion, in which case we would need to be prepared for an even more significant correction afterwards. But fortunately for now, we are tracking continued upside in pretty much all interpretations, unless we see failure of holding the areas of support. I will continue to track continuation higher, and yeah, we have been tracking these areas of support. We were waiting for such a correction ever since we have formed this top. I did provide you these exact areas when we formed the top within this internal structure to the upside, and now we are tracking continuation higher. Now, as you may see, we are also tracking a more bullish scenario in the blue count, because here we are tracking an internal series of 1-2 setups instead. And while this could work out, it is a very unrealistic expectation, and I have to say, based on the internal structure that seems to be developing right now to the upside, it is making it even more difficult to track such a bullish interpretation. But for now, we are still holding the area of support, and it's still technically possible for a third wave to emerge. And of course, we will be considering that still, but it's not going to be one of our main scenarios. And as long as we hold here the $9 level, there is no reason not to look for continuation higher. There is no reason at the moment, especially as we have completed a 3-wave correction to the downside, and we were able to tell quite accurately when we should expect this count to be full. And surely enough, once we have bottomed within this area, we were considering that this was a complete structure and that we didn't need any additional lows, and we were tracking instead this area of resistance to push into. And this area actually serves two purposes. So it could be part of a reset within a larger ABC movement, something like this within the wave 4. It could be for a signal that this structure is ready for a breakout. If we manage to get through the 78.6% retracement, we should be highly prepared for continuation even further within this structure in a larger wave 5. But at the moment, we can see that already very many times we have gotten rejected at various levels as we pushed through this area. Firstly, the 38.2% retracement, the first level of resistance, created this major reaction to the downside. Then we hit it a couple of times additionally, where it did slow us down a bit, but nothing too significant. Then the 61.8% retracement, 2 touch points that created and caused even more severe rejections. After that, we had some issues once again at the 61.8% retracement, but we managed to get through. But now we had hit the 78.6% retracement, and once again another correction. Now, I don't necessarily expect this correction to be the strongest. I could easily see this structure succeeding to get through this time, but I wanted to note how relevant this area has been overall. In the previous video, I specifically told you we have had some issues getting through the 61.8% retracement previously, a couple of times. I would have expected to do it once again, and surely enough we did. Now, within this area, in the previous video, we were tracking a potential wave 3 to form to the upside. We were considering this to be still a potential wave 1. We were considering this to be the actual bottom of the correction within the wave 2, the actual correction completion, the end in the wave C, and we were looking for a potential wave 3. This isn't necessary because within this larger fifth wave to the upside, we only need to form an ABC movement to consider this pattern complete. In this case, we could be building realistically a 5-wave move to the upside within the wave A. That would not be a problem. It would in fact help us a lot to track continuation even higher afterwards. We would be tracking a high probability correction in a 3-wave pattern, and then extension even higher within a wave C to the upside. But unfortunately, since within this pattern we are not really able to track a clear impulse, and based on the internal structure, I might even rather prefer that this is developing instead as an ABC structure, and in that case I would be highly prepared that we are developing something rather like a wave C within this area, where this would have been a 1-2 setup, this would have been a third wave up, fourth wave down would be expected within a correction, and then a C wave, not a wave C, a fifth wave to the upside could be expected to follow. And I did provide you an area of support to track continuation higher even in the previous video, but we did extend within an internal structure in this area. I wouldn't consider that this would have been part of a larger correction. I would instead consider that, yeah, this movement just extended in of itself. And in this case, I would now adjust the area of support, and while it is still technically possible for this structure to work out in certain cases as a wave 3, I would most definitely need to consider that this is working out as an impulse. It's not going to be an interpretation that we can track actively, because it's just so unlikely, and in such a case I would prefer to track a more realistic scenario, which is to develop something rather like an ABC movement within this area, in which case we would still prefer an additional high, although I want you to be fully aware it is not absolutely needed. Yeah, I could be tracking maybe other counts. Maybe we are within a wave B, remember the yellow area of resistance. This could be a larger ABC movement, in which case the wave B could very easily be something like a WXY. Although, to be honest, even in this case, I would need to consider probably the bottom to be here. Yeah, something like a WXY could work out very well actually within this structure, and we should be prepared for continuation lower. Now, for a signal that this would not be the case, I would like to see, once again, the break above this $15.7 level. We do still have some resistance here we need to get through, and I would like to do so by tracking an internal 5-wave move to the upside within this wave C, in which case I would be looking at the area of support for continuation higher between the $14.8 all the way down to the $13.1 level. As long as we hold here the 61.8% retracement, I can still look forward for a fifth wave to build within this area. And since we are tracking now a wave C, we could even be looking out for an ideal target for such a pattern, and that would be at around the 100% extension of the wave A, around the $16.5 level. And I know I was mentioning that we expect to build an ABC structure within the fifth wave to the upside, yeah? Within the larger wave 5 in the white interpretation, we expect an ABC movement. But I wouldn't necessarily consider it already done if we build here this ABC structure, because this ABC could be instead only a subdivision of a larger wave A. We may get still a larger correction in wave B, and then another C wave to the upside to build the larger fifth wave, yeah? I wouldn't necessarily consider this to form a top, even if we build this structure. Even if we follow through within our expectations, it would only be expected instead to build a larger wave A to the upside, part of the larger fifth wave. Now, even though we are at the moment tracking a larger correction within this wave 4, we would expect a larger movement, yes, something similar in proportions with what we have in this wave 2 correction, but this is not the only interpretation. However, this is pretty much the only reliable interpretation I could be tracking, yeah, the only scenario that really makes sense to take us higher afterwards. Sure, something else could work out, even this as a wave 3 could work out as an ABC movement, in which case it would allow a deeper area of support, but right now, this is what I'm focusing on. And again, for this to be the wave 4 that is part of this 5-wave move to the upside, I would expect similar proportions for this wave 2 correction. If we already reverse and turn higher, I would expect it to be within either an internal structure where this third wave would have not yet completed, which is also very much possible. Yeah, extensions are always available, we just need to allow the market to obtain them. But I wouldn't be considering this to already be the wave 4 complete. In fact, if I am to look internally, I can already tell that within this structure we have a 3-wave move to the downside. I wouldn't necessarily consider this to be a complete 5-wave structure. And in that case, I would like to see still another low to complete a 5-wave move, to complete an initial wave A. I would like a wave B correction and then a C wave to the downside. But from other perspectives, we have a 3-wave structure. We don't need any additional lows, and even within this larger area of support, we did already touch it. Yeah, we did already get into it. Well, in internal structures, it would have been even closer. It would have already gotten into it long ago. For example, even this could work out into something like an ABC movement, in which case, yeah, it would be towards the end of the support area, and yeah, it would be very much ready to continue higher. But what I will be tracking instead internally, also for a signal that this structure may start extending to higher prices in a more direct fashion, would be here, the area of resistance for a potential diagonal structure that we could track. In this case, I would be watching here the levels between the $14.9 all the way up to the $15.3 level. If we break above the 61.8% retracement, I wouldn't necessarily be looking to form still a 5-wave move to the downside within this area. Although I do want to remind you, this is still a very small time frame, and I wouldn't necessarily suggest to look too much into it. Yeah, we can use the larger area of resistance in yellow. We have the large touch point, the $15.7 level, for information regarding the larger time frame. That is something to be more focused on. But internally within this area, I am tracking, yeah, just for some ideas of what could occur, a potential 5-wave move to the downside, in which case I'm watching this area of resistance for a potential wave 4. But remember, an A wave doesn't need to be a 5-wave move. It is only that if we do manage to form a 5-wave move to the downside, we would have a pretty good guess that after a 3-wave correction, we would expect continuation even lower, yeah, to even lower prices in a larger ABC movement within a zigzag correction. But again, this is the 5-minute time frame. It is basically the nanostructure, and don't dwell too much in it. It is just for a hint of what we may be able to track within this area. But for now, these are the levels. This is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what else you want me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I hope you have a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.